Our final guest today from Forsyth County is a returning guest, and she's Miss Sarah Coffey, and she's the Air Awareness Coordinator with the Forsyth County Office of Environmental Assistance and Protection. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, thanks so much for having me again.
Well, welcome back to Empowering You, and as you have done before, you just give us so much information about the air quality in our community. And so we're in winter, but soon spring will be coming. And what does that mean as an air awareness coordinator about the change of the seasons?
Yeah, so a couple of different things. Thinking about conventional air pollution, we always have levels of particle pollution that could be concerning year-round, but starting March 1st is our ground level ozone season. So the county will begin monitoring for ground level ozone and also forecasting for ozone as a part of our Triad Air forecasting program.
Ozone is about to begin measuring ground ozone levels. And so
Yes.
how do you track that?
Yeah, so we have different monitoring stations, 3 of them, all across the county, and we monitor for ground level ozone 24/7 during that window between March 1st and October 31st. Ground level ozone isn't as much of a problem, and the reason why we don't measure it during the winter months is because it needs heat and sunlight for it to form. So basically, mainly the compounds that are produced from our cars and trucks, they produce something called nitrogen oxides, which are toxic by themselves, but they will react with other compounds called volatile organic compounds in that heat and sunlight and form this ground level ozone, which damages our airways, could be very harmful for people with asthma or other kinds of lung conditions like COPD or emphysema.
Oh, wow. So listen, I told you, I didn't tell you we're going to have a little science education here today, but it's important to know why we have individuals like Sarah working to help our community be healthier for all of us. And so how can individuals who want to know about the quality of our air, how can they actually find out what that is?
Yeah, so a couple of different ways. If you live in the Triad area, so, Forsyth County, Guilford, Davidson, other counties in this area, you can go to our website at forsyth.cc/EAP, and we have our air quality forecast. It's a little button that says AQI. You can click on that. That'll always tell you what the air quality is like in the Triad. But if you're anywhere in the country, pretty much, you can use Air Now. So either go to airnow.gov or just the free Air Now app will always give you that air quality, current air quality, and also the forecast for whichever area you're in.
Okay, so we're almost getting to that season. So, but how can we protect our health and breathe cleaner air this spring? What can we do?
Yeah, so one thing we can do, if we know we're going to have a day that might have higher levels of ozone, so on the air quality index, that would be a code orange or code red. Hopefully we would never get to that point. But definitely for code orange days, folks in sensitive groups, so that would be people under 18, over 65, or people with breathing conditions, like I mentioned, asthma, COPD, emphysema, things like that, they are going to want to take it a little bit easier and try to avoid outdoor activity and heavy exertion in the afternoon, because that's when ozone is going to be highest. So that's definitely one thing that folks can do to protect their health, but of course always just trying to drive less and produce less pollution, like trying to avoid our gas-powered lawn equipment, especially in the afternoon when it's already high. We have a really cool initiative that I know you already covered in the program. We definitely want to promote No Mow March.
No Mow March, yes, indeed.
So
yes.
Delay the use of that gas-powered lawn equipment, or if you have the ability to switch to battery-powered, that would be even better for our air.
Wow. So those things are good tips for us. But why is it important, or why do you think we need to really focus on the quality of our air?
Well, it's really important for our health, first and foremost. Of course, those sensitive groups that I mentioned, that's a lot of our population, but at high enough levels, air pollution can affect anyone, even perfectly healthy adults. So, of course, for our health, but also our environment. So something interesting about ground level ozone is that there are a lot of plants that are more susceptible to ozone in the atmosphere. It can actually damage their leaf tissue, just like it damages our lungs, and that can interrupt the photosynthesis process. A lot of those plants are really important crops that we're very dependent on, like rice, corn, wheat, soybeans. All of these can be affected by ozone.
Now I'm connecting the dots on why we want to measure that, because we want some good vegetables to put in our bodies, and monitoring the ozone level can help us to get that quality vegetable.
Absolutely.
And let me ask this then. Also, how does your office deal with pollen? What's the connection between ozone and pollen?
Yeah, so we do measure for pollen and do a forecasting program. It's separate from our other air quality work because that is a regulatory program. It's required by EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. But the pollen program that we have is really just a service to the community because we know this affects so many people. In fact, many people may feel more affected by pollen than ozone.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
So we had just began last week. We started our pollen program back up because tree pollen is coming out. Even though it's been a little cold and wet, we are going to start seeing a lot more of our cedar tree pollen, elms, maples, and then next month starts the gold rush with oaks. So that is coming, and later on we get grasses in May, and then in September we'll see that big peak in ragweeds and some other elms as well.
Now, you just called out all those different types of pollen. I'm getting scared. But as you said, it's a service to our community because so many folks are impacted by pollen, as you said, perhaps more than ozone. But again, what do we consider the real pollen season?
Yeah, so for trees, it's early to mid-February and then ending maybe in May. We still have trees that work, we still see them throughout the season. But our pollen program goes usually between early February and the end of October. We kind of just decide to call it then. But the best way to follow what's going on with pollen and get our forecast so you have a heads up for what's going on in the next 3 days and what species that may really be affecting you are to go to forsyth.cc/EAP. Instead of clicking AQI, click pollen report. And we have our whole count up there. We'll tell you which species are high that day so that you know maybe what you're allergic to. Of course, it's important to go to the doctor and get tested if you think you might have an allergy. But
wow.
Yeah.
So you heard, we're talking to Sarah Coffey, who's the Air Awareness Coordinator. And Sarah has just come sharing with us how the environment and things that we're doing in our county to really pay attention to what goes on in the ground with ozone and with pollen. And Sarah, are there any other tips you can share with us about how we can make sure we're our healthiest?
Absolutely. I'll just leave a few more tips specifically for pollen. Of course, stay indoors when you see pollen counts are high. If you have symptoms, try not to leave your clothes hanging out on the line, even though that's a great thing for air quality because you're not using your dryer, then you will be getting pollen on your clothes. If you've got pets that may get pollen on them from being outside, try to groom them or give them a bath too. Maybe even wearing a mask could be helpful. And if we have days, hopefully this doesn't happen again, but if we get some wildfires and smoke coming to our area, the particulate matter, you can actually, by wearing an N95 mask, some of those really high quality masks, you may be able to reduce your exposure that way as well.
So, and you can find and get the forecast by going to what online?
Yeah, forsyth.cc/EAP, or you can find us on Facebook. Just type in Forsyth Pollen. We're on X as well. And for air quality stuff, we're on Facebook as Triad Air Awareness. So please look for us there.
Oh, well, great. Well, thanks again for coming and helping us to be a healthy community.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show for this week. And we want to thank all of our guests from the Forsyth County government for coming and sharing information about what they are doing to help our community to be the best community for all of its citizens. please join us again next Sunday at noon for another edition of Empowering You with me, Alvin Atkinson, here on WSNC 90.5 FM. Until then,